everybody. It's Wednesday. It's Jim. It's Matt. And Matt, thought we'd talk a little golf, something that you and I enjoy. And think we're going to have some fun this week. Brooks Koepka, who has played in a couple of tournaments. He started the one out in Phoenix, the Waste Management, but I missed the cut on that one. And then the Farmers, you said he played the Farmers?
Yeah, the Farmers Insurance Open. Yeah, he played there. He did make the cut, but he finished I think he finished 1 under par for the week, well off the pace for Justin Rose, who won it. Granted, he won it by a lot, but I think Rose was at like 15 under for the week. So he wasn't really in contention, but he did make the cut his very first tournament.
Well, that's a good thing. And so Brooks this week gets to play home game, so to speak. His home course is in Palm Beach, and that's where the tour is this week. And he gets to play, at the PGA National Resort, which is a beautiful golf course down there in Palm Beach. It's where Nicholas used to play. He had a tournament at the beginning of the season that he was one of the co-hosts of, and so that used to be that tournament, and it was right there at Palm Beach Gardens. So it's got a long history of being one of the, it normally is the first stop on the Florida swing of the PGA Tour. And so Brooks is going to get an opportunity to play on a course he certainly knows a lot about.
Yeah, and this is a place that's been made easier. It's been noted when you look at some of the winning scores over the history of this tournament, or at least this venue. The scores used to be a lot lower now. They've changed the way the grass is around. If I remember correctly, it used to all be Bermuda, which made the course play a significant amount tougher. They've changed it. I think it's like overseeded rye is the rough now. So they made some changes. It's easier to score now.
Let me stop you for just a second. You brought up a very good point. If you could, because you have a great knowledge of this, explain to people the difference in those two grasses and why one is a little easier than the other. Not that they're both not easy, but there's a definite difference.
Yeah, so what makes the Bermuda a lot harder is the ball sits down in it a lot easier. Like it allows it to sink a little bit more, and so you have a lot more resistance on your club. It doesn't just glide through the grass the same way that it really kind of does with that overseeded rye. It's something that allows you to have a lot more chip-ins. It makes the short game around the green a lot easier just because you kind of have a pretty good idea of what the ball is going to do off the club face. Where in Bermuda, sometimes you get it full, sometimes you don't get it full. You don't really know as well what it's doing. And again, you're getting worse lies off of that Bermuda grass, typically speaking.
I had a caddy once tell me, I was asking him about it. He goes, just think of it this way. He goes, one swallows the ball and the other one doesn't. And pretty much that's it. It gives you an idea that if you're lucky in some of the Bermuda grass, if you can see the top of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you see that top of the ball, like you have so much grass that you do have to work through in order to get it. Like if you're hitting really more than probably a wedge at that point, you're going to have a tough time getting. You're probably hitting around maybe 80 to 90% of your normal power there, and sometimes that's generous. A lot of the times it can catch the club. God knows I'm not good enough, so I'm shooting like bullets out of that stuff when I play in it. So it just makes for a really difficult second shot, typically speaking, compared to that overseed where a lot of these guys really excel with it, where you can see some of those lower scores. I think a couple of years ago somebody shot a 59 there.
Wow. It's funny because just to finish up on the Bermuda, I played, where was it? Feather Sound, which is a course where Valspar played 1 year at Feather Sound before they moved back over to. They were working on uh, on the course where Valspar is now. Uh, and so anyway, went to Featherstone, and we were playing. A guy out in the Bermuda grass, and he was kind of hit it out, and he sprained his wrist.
Hmm.
You know, idea that gives you an idea, folks. You know, when that gets down in there, like Matt was saying, shoot it out. I mean, it does. It'll fly out of there because you have to hit it so damn hard. But if you
Yeah.
ground the club in that, because what you can do is ground that club because you can't see where the bottom is, right?
Yep.
And so you hit that ball. Yeah, the ball pops up, but guess what? The club stays right where you right where it hits you, and
Hmm.
you can really hurt yourself. So you got to be very careful. If you're a hacker like me, you know, be careful. You could injure yourself playing on that.
Yeah, I've had similar stuff like that. In Georgia, Bermuda grass grows pretty
Right.
well,
Sure.
um, with the climate around here, and so there's a lot of courses that use it. And good lord, it makes for some unfun casual golf when I'm sitting there in the middle of summer trying to hack through this stuff because God knows I can't hit a fairway.
You got to take a sickle with you and just
Yeah,
cut the grass as you're going,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
basically what you do with the golf club.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen some divots fly out of there that about the size of a cake. So
Oh yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
be
No, you
very
get some
careful.
big ones.
Yep. So Brooks is back. What do we think? I mean, I don't know that live ruins anybody, but it definitely gets you out of your rhythm.
Yeah, it can. What's it called? The situation, like it, they talked about it really at the start. The
Hmm.
difference between playing 72 holes and playing 54 holes. It's a
Hmm.
difference. It's a significant difference.
Hmm.
I think you'd be remiss if anybody thought it wasn't. So there is that aspect of it that you have to take into account. But in terms of Brooks and his game overall, I don't think that his struggles in his first two events have been necessarily related to his time on live. I think it's just related to what's been a relative weak spot in his game here for a couple years, and that's his putter.
Hmm.
Um, he's just not putting very well right now,
Hmm.
and I mean, he really has no one to blame but himself. I was not a big fan. He went so at the Farmers Insurance, if I remember correctly, he was top 10 in the field in tee to green strokes
Hmm.
gained, and
Okay.
then dead last in the field in terms of strokes gained putting. And he was in the waste management the week after the Farmers Insurance, right?
Yeah.
And he switched his butter that very next week. I mean, that was
Hmm.
his first start back. That was his first time.
Hmm.
I didn't like pulling the trigger so quickly
Hmm.
on switching the putters. Just you know, not not something I'm a fan of because I feel like if you've got a level of comfort with something, one bad week shouldn't change it, and that's almost
Right.
feels like the talk about emotional responses.
Right.
Sometimes like hiring and firing feels like that may have been a little bit of an emotional response to his putting. Um, so wasn't sure about that. I'll be curious to see when he comes out if he's using that mallet because he had switched to a spider putter,
Hmm.
which is used by, I think it's used by like 8 or 9 of the top 10 in the OWGR right now.
Hmm.
The spider is. So it's a good putter, one of the best on the market for sure. But I again, he's built a level of comfort. He's used a blade for, to my knowledge, the pretty much the entirety of his career.
Right.
And to make that switch one PGA Tour start in, not the best thing in the world because I didn't feel like he was it when I watched him at Torrey Pines versus in
Hmm.
Scottsdale. At Torrey Pines, it felt like he was close. Like he was burning a lot of edges. It felt like he was just off. And again, those Torrey Pines greens are not easy to read. They're not
Right.
easy to put on. So it just felt like a bit of an overcorrection going to a place in Scottsdale where he had played well prior,
Hmm.
when he was on the tour, and ultimately, didn't really improve his putting. In fact, his putting felt like it was somehow a little bit worse in Scottsdale than it was at Torrey Pines.
So on the spider, that's a that's a real touch putter. if you have problems with the blade, how
Hmm.
how how do you feel? I mean, I just don't see how that's switching to that putter. If you don't have the touch with the blade putter, is going to help you.
Well, so I'll tell you, like when I first started playing golf, the
Hmm.
putter that I had in the bag, it was a blade putter.
Hmm.
Um, I have since changed to a spider, and
Hmm.
it's something, at least for me. And again, I'm
Hmm.
not good, but visually it helps. Like
Okay.
it feels, you feel like you're more in control because of the weight that this putter provides. It's
Okay.
not necessarily like I
Kind of
get
like
a
the old potato masher, big flat thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I've like at least in my head, I get a picture of my take back a lot
Okay.
better with the thicker back on it, uh,
Okay.
than I did with a blade. It's something where I just
Hmm.
like liked the weighting better on it. I liked it visually,
Hmm.
and I did feel like I could control my speeds a little bit better, partially
Hmm.
because I like, at least for me, I was leaving stuff short. That was not Brooks's problem,
Hmm.
obviously. His pace was fine. So I'd be curious. I would think that maybe some of it was weight based, but
Hmm.
again, you can weight those blade putters if you feel good about it.
Hmm.
But it's something that I think it's just a little bit more forgiving of a club in terms
Right.
of putter as well.
Well, yeah, when you've got the weight doesn't help. I mean, hurt either. You know
Hmm.
that gives you just you could touch a little less, and you don't have to hit it as hard to get it further. So
Yeah.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully he'll figure it out. The rankings are out. Obviously, this is the updated rankings. Um, to no one's surprise, as of February 15th, um, Scotty is in first place. Scotty Scheffler. He's got a 17.120 average in his points. Rory's in second with 8.34. Fleetwood is 5.43. Justin is 5.050. Morikawa, who has done well so far, is 4.83, and there's your top five.
Yeah. So just off the top of my head, I can tell you that Scotty uses a spider, Rory uses a spider, Tommy
Mm-hmm.
uses a spider, and Morikawa uses a spider. If I remember correctly, Justin Rose uses oh god, it's still more of that mallet shape, but
Mm-hmm.
it is not a spider putter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I for the life of me can't remember what type of putter it is. It may be a
Okay.
Scotty. Um, but yeah, he's got kind of like the wing back almost,
Uh-huh.
the double wings where it's not filled in on the side. But still, again, a little bit more of that mallet style. So there's more proof in the guys that use that type of putter. Rory's played well. Tommy hasn't really played on the PGA Tour. He's
I
done a
was going
lot.
to say, I don't think he's played much.
He played these past 2 weeks. He played at Riviera and he played at Pebble. And
Mm-hmm.
those were the Pebble was the first start for a lot of the Europeans on the PGA Tour. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
had been spending time on the DP World Tour, or just, I mean, flat out just taking the weeks off.
Right.
Because
Understandable.
some of these guys still live over in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, traveled. They just take a longer off season. I know that the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am was the first start for Shane. It was the first start for Rory, and it was the first start for Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so all three of those guys were there, and first starts on the PGA Tour, but they've been playing in the TGL and
Yeah.
on the DP World Tour as well.
Well, there's also a lot of I hasten to call them gimmicky because they're not gimmicky, but they're off the book. Meaning, they're not sanctioned PGA tournaments, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of them over in the Middle East. If they go to Qatar or someplace like that, play big money over there. They go to Japan, they play maybe down in Australia, Singapore. I mean, there's world tournaments that happen at the end of uh, you know around the holidays. Like it ends at Christmas, but it picks up
Mhm.
real quick at first of the year, and you can make you can go over there, and if you shoot pretty good scores, you can bank some pretty good cash before you head to the United States for the U.S. tour.
Yeah, and you bank some points as well for the
Hmm.
OWGR.
Yeah.
That's big. Some of these guys, and really more specifically, the Live Tour guys are
Hmm.
ones that play a lot more, or at least a little bit more consistently
Hmm.
on the DP World Tour, simply because it's a way to get points. It's a way to maintain the Ryder Cup standing. I know there's some fines out there that are affecting some of the bigger guys, John Rahm, Terrell Hatton are two of them. But yeah, it's a way to make some money. It's a way to earn some points really when they just don't feel like going back to the States and really starting that West Coast wing just yet. A lot of the Europeans, with the exception of pretty much Justin Rose and I think Robert McIntyre,
Hmm.
didn't start their season in Hawaii when the season started, and then
Hmm.
obviously they waited a couple weeks into that Western swing to
Hmm.
finally make their starts, which I do think is interesting because there are some notable tournaments in there that they miss. The farmer
Hmm.
insurance we talked about,
Right.
the waste management we've talked about as well. Those are two of the places that they just didn't choose to play. So
Which
it
is
is
interesting
interesting.
because those two tournaments have been really good for first time winners.
Yeah, and I also think they aren't signature events.
Right.
None of them are.
The
So
pressure's not there.
yeah, so the fields are a little bit different. The stakes are a little bit lower for some of those events, and they just, I mean, like when you look at it with Rory and Tommy now, like these are two guys that I believed finished in or around the top 10 in both the Pebble Beach Pro Am
Hmm.
and assist this past week. So obviously their time off didn't it hasn't hurt their PGA or their play overall on the tour.
The money leaders as of the 15th, Morikawa leads the leads the way with one win and one top 10 finish. He's banked 3,622 at this point in time. That's not a bad cash out. Chris Gottlieb from the United States, he's right behind him at 3.5 with two wins and two top 10 finishes. Scotty's in third with 2.9 million. That's a win and three top 10 finishes. Morikawa at 1.9 mil with two top 10 finishes. And Sepp Straka, uh, 1.8 million, one top 10 finish. So there you go with that. The Cup standings, Gottlieb is got 1.06 points. Scotty's at 938. Morikawa's at 706. Massimoto, I'm sorry, Massimaya. Let me try this again. Hideki Matsumeya is 560, and Ryan Gerald, 558 in your point standings. So the FedEx Cup points, but it's a little deceptive because we really haven't played that many tournaments at this point in time.
Yeah, it can be. Gotter Up is there, and Gotter Up's a guy who you go back and you look at it, and you really pay attention to the way he ended last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he won the Scottish Open, finished top five at the Open,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there at Portrush last year.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a guy that was trending well. He won the Sony, and then he won in Phoenix. So two wins that get you there. A guy not on that list that I think is, well, I mean, the reason he's not in the top five is he doesn't have what all those other guys have, and that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and that's Jake Knapp. He's finished his worst finish on tour this season's T11, and that was at the Sony. And he's a guy who's played fantastically this season. Like
Mm-hmm.
his his play has taken a significant step up, different different than what he has been. He's been a good golfer. I mean, you could go watch a video of his swing, and it's one of the prettiest swings on tour. But he's lacked consistency. Really, he's lacked the top finishes as well. He has not necessarily played his best golf, but he's starting to round into form this year.
Hmm. Well, the other thing too is that we're starting to get to the fun part of the schedule. Um, this week there'll be the Cognizant Classic at Palm Beach uh, at the Palm Beaches, as we were talking about earlier. That's going to be a good event. It starts tomorrow. The purse is 9.6 million. Then we get serious. We head to Orlando for March 5th, and that's the Palmer tournament, which is at Bay Hill.
Hmm.
Fantastic course, Arnold Palmer Invitational, and that's a $20 million purse,
Hmm.
which ain't bad. Um,
No, no, it is not.
then they drop down to actually the Palm Bay. I should say, put it this way: they have two tournaments at the same weekend. The Palmer, March 5th through the 8th, which is be you know next weekend, and the Puerto Rican Open, which also is the same time. That's played on the Grand Reserve Country Club in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico. Then they jump back to Florida, to one of your favorite courses and mine, the Players Championship at Sawgrass. Purse there is $25 million, and defending
Hmm.
champion Rory McIlroy. Then we go over to Tampa, basically at Innisbrook, for Copperhead in Palm Harbor, for the Valspar.
Yeah, it's the start of that Florida swing, and starting in Orlando, this was a piece of news that came out last night from one of the two TGL doubleheader matchups, or no, that was Monday night that it came out.
Yeah, that
Um,
was fun to watch actually.
yeah, Justin Thomas is going to return. He had surgery. He's been rehabbing his surgery, and he
Hmm.
is set to return to golf at the Arnold Palmer
At Bay
Invitational.
Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, at Bay Hill. And you'd mentioned they have that tournament in Puerto Rico at
Hmm.
the same time. That's the alternate event. They
Yeah.
typically do those during the signature events to give the guys that are not inside the
Just
top
didn't get the invite. Yeah.
75, I think it is,
Yeah.
in the FedEx Cup standings. So the guys not inside the top 75, I believe it was the top 75 for the prior year, is
It
how they
is,
determined them.
because by this time we don't have 75
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. So top 75 from last year make those events.
Mhm.
That's where you won't see. So that's where the Brooks Koepka, right, on this
Mhm.
returning members program, the only way he can make it to those signatures events is he has to play his way in. He
Right.
has not done that yet. If he say he were to win the Cognizant this week, um,
Mhm.
then it's a scenario where you would see Brooks Koepka at the Arnold Palmer. But that's the
Right.
only way that you're going to see him at the Arnold Palmer,
Right.
would be with a win this week. So it's that alternate event for those guys not inside that top 75 to go out there to Puerto Rico, and get a chance to earn more FedEx Cup points, more OWGR points, and obviously some money as well.
Yeah, and what's likely, if Brooks doesn't win this week, is that he'll probably go and a lot of people do. He'll probably go to Sawgrass and just spend a week practicing.
It's possible. I don't know if he'll make Sawgrass though,
Oh,
um,
you don't think that
because
was
I think Sawgrass is considered a signature event, so I don't
check
know
that
if
out
he will
while we're
make it.
talking?
But yeah, if he were to make Sawgrass, then yes, he absolutely would. If he were to be eligible for it, he absolutely would just go practice. That is true. It's what he's done since the end of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Was he returned home knowing that this was the next tournament that he had on his
Mhm.
schedule, and he's been practicing this entire time. He said he feels good about the way his swing is. He said he liked a lot of the work that he'd done, made acknowledgments that what had happened at those past two tournaments just kind of made him more aware about the holes in his game when talking to the media this week. And so he's looking to bounce back, and it's something where the tee to green, the approach numbers, all that stuff, it was still there in some of these tournaments. He just was not converting a lot of the times on the greens. So it'll be very interesting to see if he can get his putter rolling again. Then he's a guy that can definitely finish in the top 10. Heck, he's a guy that can probably win this thing with the scoring conditions and it being in a place that he's comfortable with, his
Mhm.
hometown.
Yeah, and it's not an overwhelmingly, we talked about, it's not an overwhelmingly tough course.
Mhm.
Um, and I just checked on what you're saying. It says you can, okay, uh, okay. Mm, PGA winners in the previous championship. So, in other words, anybody who's won the Players' Championship can come back and play. The FedEx Cup standings, the official World Golf Rankings, uh, top finishes in a signature event. None of this so far has got him in there. Um, Best player at the Champions, top 10 player last year. Um, then there are sponsor exemptions, but to get that, um, there's four different categories, and not one of them do. I don't think you would qualify with any of them.
What are the categories for the
The
sponsor exemption?
It's the highest ranked international player not otherwise eligible, so
Mhm.
he doesn't that doesn't fly.
No.
Um, Promising young tour member, that doesn't fly.
Mm-mm.
Um, Players returning from injury, that doesn't get it.
Depends
Uh,
on what you consider live.
yeah, I guess you could. Occasionally, as it says here, a standout player who has missed some time. So, in other words, you take a year off or something like that, and you're coming back. Hey, if the name I would assume is big enough, then they can give them a sponsor exemption. I don't honestly see where that Brooks hits any of those four.
That last one, I think on a technicality, they could probably get him in there on that
Yeah,
because whether, well, I mean, I think they did admit it in them admitting him back under this. Like, yes, they came up with these parameters, right?
hmm
For him to come back, this returning player program, yada
hmm
yada, that was designed for the what was it, the three other major or
yeah,
four other major winners on the Live Tour. They were trying to get Cam Smith. They were trying to get John Rahm. They're trying to get Bryson, and maybe Dustin. I can't remember if he had fit into that criteria as well. But they wanted Brooks Koepka back because Brooks Koepka is a big name, right?
right.
Um, ESPN picked up the coverage for the Farmers Insurance Open when they had Brooks Koepka returning. He was on the featured group for TPC Scottsdale in the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So he is an eyeball. He's attention grabbing.
hmm
Um, and I think his name is big enough that if they kind of wanted to flex the rules, then they could. Because let's be honest, they flexed the rules for him in the first place to get back.
To get him back to.
Yeah, and if you don't believe me, ask Wesley Bryan, who's still sitting at home trying to play in PGA Tour events. Um, but I think he's a big enough name that they could. Now, obviously, we're still a few weeks away from that, but it almost feels like something where if they have that avenue open, they're going to take it.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. I just messaged the people at PGA with like what's Brooks, is Brooks going to play or can Brooks play is what I wrote
Mhm.
to in the 2026 TPC at Sawgrass. And my response was, if he qualifies through the PGA Tour criteria, which we already talked about,
Mhm.
um, It says the key factor. This is the thing that um, the key factor that they give me is Koepka has officially returned to the PGA Tour, and under the returning member program, it restores his ability to earn and enter all standard and signature events through performances in and including sponsor exemptions.
Yeah, so I think he might be eligible under that last criteria.
Yeah,
But
that's a pretty open. Yeah, no pun intended. That's a pretty open. You know, question. It's kind of vague enough that they could sneak it in, and you couldn't argue with them.
yeah, and I mean that's kind of the way they went about him returning in the first place.
Right.
It was vagueness, where they felt like they justify it, like, and I mean they want to justify it because of the staunch stance that they've had against the Live Tour, right?
Right.
They've been very adamantly against the Live Tour. If you didn't believe that, you take a look at the statement that they put out when they welcomed Brooks Koepka back,
Yeah.
um, talking about how they believe this is the premier tour. Best players on the planet play here, strongest fields on in the world play there.
Hmm.
All of which is true, by the way. That's not something that I think can really be disputed when you look at, just overall stats of fields. It's very clear and obvious that the PGA Tour has the strongest fields.
Well, yeah.
So
But, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so they did feel some need to justify welcoming Brooks Koepka back, the same way they kind of felt a need to, like, Patrick Reed's got to earn it back when
Mhm.
he starts playing late this year as well.
I mean, look. Let's face it. If you're Brooks, if you're Bryson DeChambeau, they move the needle. People
Mhm.
want to see them play. The PGA needs that money, and they need that the promotion that those two guys give them. Um, as you just said, would that be something that if you or I were the 100th golfer in the country, or the 76th on a 75, cut line, are we
Yeah,
going to get in over Brooks or over DeChambeau? No.
no,
Is
no,
it fair? No. But
no,
nobody ever said it was.
no, and it's the same problem. I mean, I was sitting there last week watching the Genesis. I think it was on, I think Thursday night. I was watching the wrap up of the first round,
Hmm.
and Jacob Bridgman led, and I'm sitting there, and my dad, who doesn't follow golf, goes, "Well, who the hell's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Jacob Bridgman." And again, the name recognition at the top of the leaderboard
Right.
matters for these events. Like, there's a reason that they build the players the way they build the players.
Right.
There's a reason that they build these signature events, because these are their strongest fields. These have the most name brand players. Um, and I don't think, like, I think where people get things mixed up is they look at the name brand players on, like, well, Live can kind of match up for the name brand guys that they have out there every week, right? In terms of,
Close enough.
yeah, they've got some names that can go head to head with some of the names on the PGA Tour, right? It's that in between grouping that separates the different tours. Um, and so these good guys, like, yes, they may play good golf, but if their name value doesn't bring as much, then it's just flat out not going to bring as many eyeballs.
No.
Brooks Koepka in poor form is still probably going to bring more eyeballs to the TV than Marco Penge, who was leading the Genesis last week.
Right. No. And it's, I mean, look, star power is on everything in all sports, right? I mean, you want to see. We talked about that in the Final Four the other
Mhm.
day about teams, right? You want to see Cinderella, but if you don't know who Cinderella is, it's kind of hard to decide. And if you look at the leaderboard and you're sitting there going, okay, there's four people up here, I have no idea who they are. I may choose to watch something else or do something else, or hell, in some cases for golfers, you go out and say, you know what, go play 9 holes and come
Yeah.
back later. So it is kind of um, it is definitely driven by um, it's driven by storylines, and if you can't connect something to the storyline, it's not going to work.
Yeah, like I mean, and there's no disrespect to these guys, but if you have a final grouping of Garrick Higo, Marco Pinge, and oh god, I just had one in my head, like Michael Kim on a
Uh-huh.
Sunday at say the Arnold Palmer,
Sure.
like, and none of Scotty Scheffler, Roy McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, any of those guys is like in the mix. Adam Scott,
Hmm.
another guy, Hideki. Like if some of those big names aren't in, then yeah, you're not going to get as many eyeballs to the TV. So I think if the PGA Tour does enact that and they get them into the players, it's one of those things where you're just doing your best to strengthen the field, to increase your odds of having a great Saturday and Sunday for of golf and of pairings.
Let me. There's something here. I think I'd like to qualify. We were talking about PGA's tour revenues, right?
Hmm.
About the amount of money. Now PGA, all of the tour events are in cooperation with local charities in the city that they're playing. All right. So um, there's no sport in, or let me just put it this way: there's no professional sport where you play games and that on the event day, that a significant amount of the money goes to charity of ticket sales.
Hmm.
And that's where the PGA Tour goes. Okay, $50 off of every ticket goes to the local charities. And so the event revenue, if you're the host, if you're the host country club, right,
Hmm.
you eat whatever it is it takes to get that event there. Okay,
Yeah.
you want the eyeballs from television. You don't the the local. Does that mean something to have a crowd? Of course, it means something to have a crowd, but it doesn't matter to you because that money's going to, part of it's going to the PGA and part of it's going to the charitable deductions. So, to give you an example, um, in the last 3 years, the PGA has generated $4 billion worldwide in charitable money from the tickets.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's well, I mean, heck, revenue is what Kepka gave up to come back to the PGA Tour. He gave up
He gave
his
up guaranteed money.
yeah, he gave up his revenue opportunities heading into this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you sit there and you're going, that. I mean, I golf gets a bad rap a lot of times, and and I think that when drill down and you look at it and you see that the people go out and enjoy the events, um, and knowing that the money's going to stay in basically in town.
Hmm.
So you're talking about pretty much half the money that they get off the tickets go directly into charitable organizations in the city that they play. That to me is a very underreported part of how the PGA works.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it does, the tour itself does get like a boy, it feels like they're fighting PR a lot,
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of some of the stuff that they come out and say publicly. Whatever it is, it seems like they don't always nail it, right? But
That's been the way it has been with them forever.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, Jay Monahan and the folks in that building, they missed the mark. It feels like a decent amount, but that stuff that I don't know. It just feels like they don't prop it up, which is a plus. Like you don't want to hear somebody who like somebody gives charitably. You don't want to be like, well, look how much I give to charity, right?
right.
Like, it's not supposed to be something that you brag about, but it is something good that the PGA Tour does that goes unrecognized.
Well, and they also run a lot inner city and rural golf events to teach kids how to play.
Yeah.
Uh, when I grew up in Florida, um, we learned how to play golf at um, the local park, the local Hillsborough County, in the case of Tampa, Hillsborough County Park. They had golf lessons that you could take. It didn't cost you anything. You just go and play. They would practice. There's a there's a local there was a local golf course which was not a it was a public golf course. You go out there on every Tuesday or Thursday and play, and get better at what you did. So there was the illusion, and there has always been the illusion that that golf is a rich person's game. To an extent, if you want to play on golf courses like the big ones, yeah, it's going to cost you two, three, $400 to get on there just to play one round. But if you just want to play golf, there's many uh, very interesting courses to play. I bet you. I used to play USF's golf course 90% of the time. Um,
Mhm.
A, because I was a student there, which didn't hurt, um, and B, even after I graduated, because again, the rate it cost, when you go out and want to play for 20, $25 a round, that's not a bad deal, because
Yeah.
that may be dinner and movie, right?
Yeah. Well, and you also have a situation in golf where it already had a baseline level of exclusivity because
Hmm.
clubs aren't cheap, right?
Sure.
Playing isn't cheap. Like, heaven forbid you want to like belong to a country club. God
Hmm.
knows that's not cheap.
Right.
Um, so there's a baseline level of exclusivity, and it can be something that is difficult for parents to like get their
Hmm.
kids into. And I think that's part of golf's problem as a public perception thing. It's like
Hmm.
it's not something that's a widely accessible sport.
Hmm.
And as good as those donations that the PGA Tour has, like their charitable donations, being able to grow the game through the PGA and through the lessons that they can give and
Hmm.
stuff like that, making golf more affordable and more accessible,
Yeah.
that's more advantageous than really most of their social like you're not going to be able to social media your way into
Hmm.
making this sport more accessible. The way you make this sport more accessible and more popular is through your actions and your programs, which appears to be what they're trying to do. But it's hard when I can go out to the local course. I was actually having this conversation with a buddy of mine, and
Hmm.
there's a course in my hometown that he used to work at, and he was talking about it. He's like man, when I worked there, you go out for like $25 a round.
Hmm.
Now they're charging you 55 if it's a twilight on a weekday, right?
Right.
So, and you're
Which,
talking
if
about
you're
a place.
lucky, are just 7 or 9 holes it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about a place that is not a $55 course in terms of its upkeep and stuff like that either.
Right.
That's the way golf goes now, right?
Hmm.
Is even the dirt tracks are charging you 40 like
Hmm.
40 $50 to go play. And that's just it makes it unsustainable for a lot of people to get into and stay into the sport of golf.
Yeah. Now, I will say this about the TPC. The TPC courses around the country, if you are a student, they have student prices.
Hmm.
Um, and they do have off days. If, in other words, if you want to play at 7 o'clock in the morning, um, you can get a reasonable rate for that.
Hmm.
So they're trying. But I will say something that has probably helped golf more than anything. And it has nothing, it really has nothing to do, it has to do with golf, but it's not. Um, People who've never played golf end up at Top Golf.
Hmm.
And Top Golf has been probably one of the biggest, um, and PGA has nothing to do with it. One of the biggest drivers, no pun intended, of people who to want to play golf.
Yeah, and even then now you look at the way has gone,
Mhm,
and you're spending a pretty penny. You can almost pay for a round of golf for the price you can go to Topgolf for an hour at this point.
mhm,
But you're right. It's made it feel more like an activity, a lot more
mhm,
accessible. It's somewhere where people don't feel. I think there's also an intimidation factor when people get
mhm,
into golf. I remember that when I first started, I was like, man, I stink. Like I don't belong out here on the course with everybody else.
mhm,
I'm just out here whacking it around. I don't know what the hell's
mhm.
going on. And so it almost feels like you don't belong at that place as a beginner. And it's a way that like at Top Golf, you look to your right and you look to your left, everybody's hitting the same kind of shots as you,
Mhm,
right? Because for most people, if they're really into golf and they're pretty good at golf, they're just going to go play golf, right?
mhm.
And there, it's a much more social aspect. The same way you go to the bowling alley, not everybody's bowling 285, right?
That'd be
Every
a 3 that would be a 3, that'd be a 3 rounds for me to beat, 385.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a terrible
So
golf
yeah,
bowler.
so you're going to the bowling alley because you know nobody's bowling 300. Like you're
Right.
going there to do something that you enjoy, and that's something that's helped Topgolf. Also, something that's kind of helping golf as a whole is these like simulator bays, essentially.
Yeah.
These places, these indoor simulators, they help with the accessibility because that allows you to like really kind of understand what you're doing and practice a little bit, as opposed to Top Golf where you're just kind of whacking it around.
Couple of months ago, I talked to Laura Jensen, who is with the LPGA,
Hmm.
and she told me that Top Golf, because it's like a date night thing for a lot of people now,
Hmm.
that they're seeing a spike in young women wanting to learn to play golf, and that you know that uh, that's something that's become really a motivator for them. The LPGA is sponsoring a ton of of learn to golf initiatives, getting women on the course, getting young girls on the course, and if you see what's gone on in Asia, my goodness, I mean, Japanese, Chinese, Koreans, I mean, that entire oceanic area has produced a ton of really incredibly strong young women golfers, and they dominate the PGA. If
Yeah,
it wasn't for the Corda sisters, we'd be in trouble. But
yeah,
it's and I think that's a good thing. I mean, the influx of getting casual people to get interested in golf, and specifically, women getting involved with the LPGA, I think it's definitely a plus.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right in the date night, or obviously you're right in the date night aspect
Mm.
of Top Golf that helps. I think there's a couple other factors that play into it. Some of it is just flat out like sometimes these like I think it's been such a growing hobby and it
Mhm,
feels like a lot more people, especially my age, play it. So
mhm.
when you're getting into relationships, you kind of like to pick up the hobbies of your partner or something like
Sure.
that. And so that can play a role. But also another big role, and I've talked about it briefly before on here, but the social media um
Mhm.
following and like the boom of golf has helped a lot more because what it
100%.
does is it takes a sport where, like, I mean, heck, I think it was like, if I'm trying to think, there's a place that I've worked at before, and I don't think they allowed like women into the clubhouse until like the 70s or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a historically male-dominated sport, but
Right.
now you are getting these girls who are good at the game, by the way,
Mhm,
and in front of them a lot more regularly, and it's like it's relatable. Like this girl is my age. This girl is playing this sport. Like maybe she's going out there with guys, but she's going out there with other girls too,
mhm.
and like it's more of an exposure thing that I think has really allowed for the women's side of the game to grow, and I think it's going to continue to grow.
I think
And
one of the things to hear your point, one of the
mhm,
things that's really been a boom via social media, my God, um, it has been the um, uh, the deal that you see on Instagram. Some of these Instagram young women who play golf have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 million followers,
mhm,
and and they can play. I mean,
yeah,
this is not just they're not just out there whacking it. I mean, they can play.
yeah, and
So, go ahead.
they're starting to form the groups too, like on YouTube.
Mhm.
Like you think about these groups that kind of started and really when this golf boom kind of happened.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
you've got the good, the Bob Does Sports, the
Mhm.
Bryan brothers, like all you've got the upper echelon of golf content creators.
Mhm.
But
Right.
Good made they've got a spinoff group now that's the Good Girls, right? And
Mhm.
they do a lot of promotion for that channel now, and it's something
Mhm.
that's becoming a lot more. They're kind of putting it on a pedestal, but there are a lot of other like groups of girls that are playing golf, and that is something that has contributed to their social media rise as
Right.
well. So it's just created like in a day and age where you can kind of complain about everybody having a platform, everybody the allowance of everybody to have a platform has allowed for the game of golf to grow really, I feel like more than it has in the men's game and the women's
Right.
department as well.
Well, back in the day, as the old saying goes, um, it was traditional that if you belonged to a country club, the guy was, the family would go, right?
Hmm.
The dad would go play golf. The mom would hang out at the pool with the kids, maybe play tennis,
Yep.
if possible. But it was more of that. And now I think you're seeing people who are investing the money to get into a golf, a country club, knowing that both men and women will be playing golf in that on that country club.
Hmm.
And you're right. There's been a ton of different situations where um, uh, there's been a tremendous amount of exclusion. We're not even getting into the blacks, the Jews, and all the other people that have gotten cut out of being played. As a matter of fact, congressional, when it was first built in back in the day, was a restricted club.
Yeah.
And so a group of Jewish and black businessmen in the Washington area decided, screw it, we'll just go and build our own.
Hmm.
And literally blocks down the street from Congressional is Woodhome Golf Course. And
Hmm.
Woodhome actually, is where a lot of people qualify to play in the PGA tournament. I'm sorry, yes, the PGA. Um, so, or no, I'm sorry, the U.S. Open. It's the U.S.
Hmm.
Open. You have to qualify. So there have been all kinds of offshoots of these different clubs, and now, I mean, look at what happened with the Masters. I mean, the Masters went 2 years without a single sponsor because they had that wrangling as to who do they want to allow women into the boys club. And
Hmm.
there is no ultimate boys club more than there was under the circumstances at Augusta.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can kind of look at it and call a spade a spade. High-end exclusive golf club in
Hmm.
South Georgia. I wouldn't, especially based on the way the tournament's been ran,
Hmm.
they aren't exactly prone or open to change, right?
Really? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. There's a shocker. I mean, you can hear Tiger still talk about feeling like he was like, he stuck out
Yeah,
like a sore thumb there
right.
in the late 90s.
Hmm.
They were a place that had, what was it? It was pretty much, or not pretty much, it was, they had like exclusively just black caddies into the 80s, right?
Um, Actually, into the early '90s.
Yeah. So again, like not your most progressive place that you're going to find golf, right?
No.
They can maintain and they've got the most beautiful golf course in the world. Doesn't necessarily mean that what they're doing off the course is great, but it is a game that has had a certain level of exclusivity, and that level of exclusivity, um,
Mhm.
started probably with Tiger, maybe a little bit before then, but
Yeah, they
yeah.
there was trying to think the name of the player who was the first black player that was on the tour. That
Oh God, they honored him. Sahith Theegala made it in on a sponsor exemption, and it's a sponsor exemption that is honored after him at Riviera last week.
hmm
I cannot remember his name though.
uh, there. Hang on, just 1 second. It's on. I want to say Lee Elder, but let me check and make sure it was Lee Elder. Because Lee was one of the first. You know, there was 1 year that Trevino boycotted the tournament at the Masters.
Hmm. Okay, the Charlie Sifford Memorial.
Okay, Charlie Sifford, Lee Elder, yeah, they came around at about the same time,
Yep.
and they were the first to play in there, and they couldn't keep them out because they qualified.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's that's the side of golf you don't want to think about, right? You're you're sitting there going, oh, this is not good. There was a club in Long Island that Muhammad Ali used to when he was training used to he didn't play golf. What he would do is he'd run the course in the or
Mhm.
early in the morning, and Billy Crystal didn't live that far from there, and Crystal and Ali were good friends. And Crystal tells the story. Actually, told the story at Ali's funeral, saying that he said, "Hey, tomorrow morning you want to go and run with me?" He goes, "Where you run?" He just told him where he ran. He says, "I can't go there." He said, "Why?" He said, "They won't let me in. They didn't let my family
Mhm.
in." And he told him why. And from that point forward, Ali just said to the club, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah.
When you've got, but fortunately, let's try to end this on an up note. Fortunately, that kind of stuff is far far less than it was many years ago, and I think one of the things that we can take away from this is that you're seeing a ton of families getting involved in golf from mom, dad, and then down the road. And if you want to see one thing that's hilarious from a standpoint of professionals, right?
Mhm.
Um, Yvonne Lendl's three daughters are all three golfers and not tennis players. So, even the best. By the way, I don't think Lendl can beat his daughters at golf, but we'll have to see how that goes. But and by the way, all three of them I think went to SEC schools.
Mm.
They were that good. So yeah, it's as somebody who's loved the game since I was about 8 or 9 years old, I um, I got to say that it's fun to finally see people um, as families get involved in it, as opposed to dad going out and playing golf this afternoon, and mom and the rest of the kids are at the pool.
Yeah, it's been what is it? It's one of those like cliche sticks. It's like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, wife's mad at me for golfing, right? But
Right,
it's now a lot more the wife is going with you golfing, right?
right. hmm
So I mean that's probably better for the overall overall relationships in America as it is.
And frankly, it's become a date situation. We said about Top Golf, but it's also become a situation where you'll see guys, young women going out and playing golf together
Yeah.
because again, shared interest, and it's actually a good sport. Um,
Mhm. 4
and
hours of quality time.
as the late great John Feinstein wrote in his book, A Good Walk Spoiled. it can be frustrating at times, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you just keep putting the clubs back in the you know in the car, and saying you're never going to play again until next week, uh, and then you drag them back out again, and continue the process.
Yeah, I find myself in that situation quite often. So
Right, walking off the course saying I'll never go back again.
yeah, the why did I sign up to do this? Why did I pay this money? I'm
I'm never
leaving.
getting that cash back.
Yeah, I'm more angry than when I showed up. What was I thinking?
Yeah, this is supposed to be relaxing. I'm going home more stressed.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going home pissed off when I was in a pretty good mood prior,
Right.
all because I couldn't hit a little white ball. Some semblance of straight.
I will say this, not that it's a high bar to thing, but I will say that I never threw a club, and I never threw a club in the water, um, which I've seen. I saw people just take their entire golf clubs, the golf bag full, and begin to do it before somebody stopped them from throwing the clubs in the water.
Yeah,
Um, that's it does cause you to think,
yeah,
and I think it's very much chess like, because you have
hmm,
to think for, all right, I shot this shot, what's my next shot gonna be?
yeah,
And you got to be thinking 2 or 3 shots down the road,
yeah.
and
It's
so it does cause you to think a bit.
well, it's something that, like, at least for me, you know, growing up, the sports I played, like I could get frustrated, and a lot of times that frustration could potentially help me, right? Like,
Sure.
I got frustrated in basketball, I could get hot. If I got frustrated in baseball, I could throw harder. Stuff
Hmm.
like that. Golf is a different sport, and it's much better suited for the adult, because, like, I have to go out there now, and I can't just get pissed off. If I
Hmm.
get pissed off, I'm going to shoot 150. I'm going to go home. I'm going to sell the clubs on eBay.
That's if you make it, if that you make it to the 18th green at
Yeah, yeah.
150.
That's if I don't drive off on hole 12 into the lake, right?
Right, exactly.
Um,
Or run out of golf balls.
Yeah, so there's a certain level of, like, composure and thought and skill that goes into it that, at least for me, is good. Like, it's almost a learning experience of, like, trying to flush that last shot and remember that,
Hmm.
yes, I do know how to swing this golf club. I just have to go through my steps, be calmer and be slower about what I do. Because, again, baseball, I can swing that bat as hard as I want to. Like, the motion of it, I was able to get my hands and the barrel of the ball when I pretty
Hmm.
well pleased, right? Golf club, lot different swing. So much more can go wrong by, like, just hairlines of inches, right?
Right.
Like, if my wrist is in this position instead of this position, that's going to affect my ball striking. This position isn't going to compress it. This position does compress it, right?
Well,
So,
and the elements, even a little bit of wind, that
yeah,
you didn't allow for.
yeah, you've got to
Like
play. I
all the
mean,
Yeah.
there's that clip of Phil Mickelson talking about, like, you hear him break down, and
Mhm,
that gives you a better idea as what the PGA Tour guys are seeing.
mhm,
But you hear him break down, like, what happens if there's a little bit of water on the ball, or if the conditions are wet, stuff like that. Like, sitting a ball down in a divot, you look at it maybe as an amateur. If your ball rolls in a divot, you might not think anything about it.
mhm,
Ball rolls in a divot as a pro, it matters a lot.
mhm.
That's a condition that you can't change. Um,
Even
so
marking the ball on the green.
yeah,
People get really pissed off if you don't, if you mark it, and and they can see the mark.
yeah. There's just a different level of, like, self accountability that goes into golf. Are you a person that's going to rake the bunkers? Are you going to fill your divots? Are you
Mhm.
going to fix your pitch marks on the green? All that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a code of honor in golf,
Hmm.
which there's no officials. I mean, if there
No,
is officials, but they're not watching you at every time. What other sport in the world where a person could be watching on television thousands of miles away from the golf course, call the PGA and have them review the tape to get you a one shot penalty?
Yeah, and you see that. Like you go back to the what was it, the tour championship, not this past year, I think it was the year before. And
Hmm.
so Heath Thegala had started to make a he had made a charge really over
Hmm.
those last couple of days. And he wasn't far off the lead. And
Hmm.
he was playing on the back nine. I think it may have been on Saturday,
Hmm.
as he had really started to kind of enter into the picture. And I mean, he barely swipes like one grain of sand, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
he tells the tour official, I think I hit that grain of sand. And you go watch the hole and the shot and everything. Him grazing that little speck of sand, it
Right.
did not affect his score on that hole or
Right.
any like it was no competitive advantage to him to
Hmm.
have that happen, but it's still one of the PGA Tour's rules. And he went out and he self-reported it. It was that personal code of ethics and that personal
Hmm.
code of honor that he upheld through the sport.
Well, let's we'll end on this one because this one I think is probably the ultimate of showing how golf is. Roberto Di Vincenzo lost the Masters
Hmm.
because of his inability to add the scorecard right. He added up the scorecard, he didn't check it,
Hmm.
and he ended up losing the Masters, not because of anything he did on the course, not because he cheated, simply because he didn't add the numbers up.
Yep.
So,
Which, if now granted, I'm not writing my scores down as well as
well, you're not playing for the Masters Championship.
yeah, as a PGA Tour pro does, but I've done a lot of wrong mental math before in the game of golf and had to be
Mhm.
corrected. So,
It happens to everybody.
yep.
But there you go. All right, everybody. Hope you had some fun. If you have some golf stories, drop them in the comment section. By all means, hit that buzzer and let us know that you like us and that you subscribe to us. So we're going to go away today, but we'll be back tomorrow. And the NHL gets back to action after the Olympic break. The NBA is starting to heat up, and Major League Baseball moves into as we get ready for the first week of the international. It's all coming. So, on that, y'all have a great day, and we will be back and talk to you tomorrow.